Hey there, language learners. It's your trusted teacher Izzy from English with Izzy. Welcome back to another exciting journey of language exploration on my channel. Are you ready to learn impressive English phrases to face your Cambridge English speaking exam? Well, you're right where you need to be. Today, we're diving deep into mastering advanced phrases to ace your Cambridge English speaking exam. Those linguistic gems that will make you stand out in spoken English. But why are these phrases so essential? Well, they're like the secret sauce to crafting impressive, intelligent discussions. Whether you're discussing global issues, dissecting complex topics, or just shining brightly in conversations, mastering advanced phrases really elevates your speaking skills. Today, we'll unravel a selection of phrases from the formal, furthermore, to the informal, honestly, I believe that, and so on. If you manage to grasp these linguistic treasures, then you will naturally infuse your speech with sophistication. Now, before we continue, don't forget to smash that subscribe button and ring the notification bell for a journey through advanced expressions like never before. Important. Don't forget to download your free PDF of exam speaking phrases. All of the phrases that I'm going to use in this video and pages more specifically for B2 First and C1 Advanced students and teachers, plus some of my secret strategies and tips are also here in my PDF. If you'd like to download it, just click on the link in the description box. All you need to do is sign up to my newsletter and you will immediately receive this 10-page document that's going to make preparing for your speaking exam so much easier. You'll also receive an email every week with helpful exam strategies, tips, and vocabularies, plus you can unsubscribe at any time. All right, enough chit-chat. Let's dive right into the world of advanced English expressions for both the B2 First and C1 Advanced Cambridge English exams. All right, we're going to go through the 4 parts of the Cambridge B2 First and C1 Advanced speaking exam, which thankfully are almost the same, and the phrases that you can use for one, you can also use for another. So let's start with the first page of speaking phrases. And the reason I've divided this PDF into separate sections is because in the B2 First and C1 Advanced Cambridge English exam, in the speaking exam, the examiners are looking for, or they're testing you on different things. So what I've done is I've included phrases that will help you naturally or automatically include those things that the examiners are asking for. So if you have started preparing already for your speaking exam, you'll probably know that the first part is essentially an interview. It's a couple of minutes long, and the idea is just to get you feeling comfortable in the exam. And as a result, what we want to do is show the examiners that we're comfortable using really natural English, not simple. We want to use advanced structures, but we also want to use natural and colloquial phrases as if we were speaking to our friends, right? Because that's what they're testing in the speaking exam. They want to see how well we can speak. And with simple questions like, where do you work? What do you do? We want to give natural answers. And this is just here to give you a helping hand. So imagine you're in the speaking exam and the examiner asks you, where are you from? You might give a boring answer like, I'm from Oxford. But we can make it so much better, right? So for example, if we use this example structure for your answer, you might say, well, I'm from Oxford, which is a quaint or a historic city in the southeast of England. So it's nice and simple. I'm not giving you the answer, but I'm helping you guarantee or ensure that you're using a wider range of vocabulary, right? Now, there may be some questions which are kind of difficult to answer because sometimes they ask us things which we would never talk about in real life, right? For example, would you prefer to go on holiday with family or friends? Sometimes we need a second to think about these answers because they're so unnatural, right? And you might use this opportunity to use a phrase like this. Oh, you've put me on the spot with that question. Again, I'm not giving you the answer, but it's a fantastic sentence you can use before giving your answer just to add that level of naturalness, right? This is something a native speaker might say, and therefore it will look really good if you use it in your exam too. Imagine the examiner asks you what you like to do in your free time, what type of books you like to read. Instead of using everyday vocabulary like, I enjoy, you might use one of these phrasal verbs or one of these fixed expressions here, again, just to show off a little bit, right? So you might say, oh, actually, I'm keen on knitting, or I'm a huge fan of cycling. I'm really fond of playing around in the kitchen and making up recipes as I go along. So by learning a couple of these phrases, again, it's a really easy way to just add that extra level to your English. I mentioned before that if there's a question which you're struggling to answer, maybe you need a few seconds to think, that's absolutely fine. But instead of freezing like this and not knowing what to say, learn a phrase that you can use to buy yourself a few seconds, like, oh, that's a tough question. You pause for a few seconds and then you go ahead with your answer. So again, learn a couple of these, and before you give your answers in speaking part 1, just pop one of these in front of them. In speaking part 2 of both the B2 First and the C1 Advanced exam, you have to compare and contrast 2 photos, right? The only difference between the 2 exams is that in the C1 exam, you are given 3 photos, but you only need to talk about 2. So one of them you're going to completely ignore. So essentially, the exercise is the same. You compare and contrast 2 photos. Now, the reason we have different phrases here is because the examiners are testing your abilities to use comparing and contrasting vocabulary. They don't want you to just describe the photos and give a long, boring list of what you can see. They want to see if you are able to move from one to the other, back to the first one. And another thing that they are often looking for in speaking part 2 is your ability to speculate, which essentially means guess or try and figure out, decide what is happening based on your logic and based on what you can see. Because we are not the people in the photos, right? We're not 100% sure of what is happening, but what you can do is make decisions and use vocabulary to show that you are thinking hard and trying to explain what could be happening in the photo. So to get those easy comparing, contrasting, and speculating marks, you can just learn a couple of these phrases. You'll see that they're actually nice and simple, right? I normally encourage my students to start their answer in part 2 by using this phrase. In both pictures, we can see, and then you pick out something that the 2 pictures have in common. And now we want to start jumping from the first to the second. So in the first photo, the people are doing this, whereas, however, these contrasting words are fundamental. On the other hand, in the second photo, these people seem to be, they might be, they appear to be. So we're comparing, contrasting, and speculating using the phrases which are right here just to make your life easier. Again, you might not be 100% sure what is happening, so just copy these phrases. Well, they could be doing this, but I'm not 100% sure. From what I can see, the woman is eating a healthy salad. Based on her posture, she seems to be very relaxed. So again, copy these phrases and then use your fantastic range of vocabulary to input your ideas, but making it just a little bit easier. Now, speaking part 3 is where your partner magically appears. Okay, well, not magically, but where you have to interact with the other person that's taking the exam with you for the first time. So parts 1 and parts 2 are solitary tasks. When it comes to part 3, the examiners are really trying to see if you are able to express complex ideas, but also interact with other people. So this is where your interactive communication marks are going to start counting. And as a result of that, I've included lots of phrases which are going to make it a lot easier for you to interact with your partner and have a much higher chance of getting those interactive communication marks. Now, because you and your partner are going to be discussing a particular topic with various subtopics, you want to you want to make an effort to ask them for their opinion, to comment on the things that they're saying, to agree and disagree with them using some phrases like this. Now, one of the easiest secret ways that you can show the examiner from the very first second that you're good at interacting and you have those interactive skills is to simply ask your partner, shall I start? Or would you mind if I started? And they'll probably say, yeah, sure, go ahead. You're showing confidence, you're dominating the conversation, but you're also inviting your partner to speak. It's a really easy way to get those marks. It's also really important in speaking part 3 that you not just give your opinions and make good points, but you need to show the examiners that you're really listening to what your partner is saying and reacting to them. So using reactions like, you're absolutely right, or you took the words right out of my mouth. I couldn't agree more. Really simple phrases of agreement, which will then allow you to give another opinion, to give another example, to extend the point a little bit more. Now, maybe you remember that in speaking part 3, you have a question in the middle and 5 subtopics, and you need to try and talk about 3 of them more or less in your exam. So imagine both of you have given your opinion on one of the points, and now it's time for you guys to talk about a different one. You can just simply ask this question, shall we move on to the next one? Or simply say, let's move on to the next one. Again, you're being confident, you're moving the conversation along to another point, and also showing that you're good at interacting with your partner, which is really important in this part of the exam. All right, let's move on to speaking part 4, which is the very last part of the speaking exam. In this part, you are essentially having a discussion with your partner. So the examiner is going to ask you questions, fairly abstract, definitely more difficult questions than in part 1. And the main difference between part 1 and part 4 is that you can give longer answers, you're going to give more complex answers, and you can also ask your partner what they think. So it's not just your answer like in an interview, but you can talk to your partner about the question that's being presented. Now, we already talked about a couple of phrases here to interact with your partner, like, where are we? What's your take on this? Do you agree? You're absolutely right. And you're really going to demonstrate in part 4 that you're able to express complex ideas. So when the examiner asks you a question, you want to use, I guess, advanced or complex phrases to introduce your point in speaking part 4, right? So you might say something like, well, as far as I'm concerned, you give your opinion, and then you might ask your partner, what's your take on this? You might say, well, I think it's a matter of, you make your point. The reason for this is, so these phrases here are phrases more to really help you organize your ideas using advanced phrases that sound impressive in your exam. Again, this is one of my favorite phrases because you can use it in parts 1 and part 4. There will be tricky questions, and if you've started preparing for your Cambridge English speaking exam, you'll know some of them are a bit bizarre and really hard to think of good answers on the spot, so use these phrases to buy yourself some time. That's a tricky question to answer, but imagine your partner has said something and you want to add some extra information. You might say, oh, following on from what Anna has said, or what Anna was saying, I also believe this. So you're responding to your partner and then politely, formally introducing your own point. So essentially, as I said before, the phrases here in speaking part 4 are general phrases to express complex ideas and essentially just to make your English sound a little bit more elevated. Remember, as I said at the beginning of the video, you can grab your free copy of this PDF, which I worked really hard on and thousands of students have already downloaded. So go ahead, grab your copy, and it will just make preparing for the speaking exam a lot more easy. And there you have it, folks, a journey through the fascinating world of advanced English speaking exam phrases. From the casual introductions of speaking part 1, to the comparative phrases of speaking part 2, interactive skills in speaking part 3, and complex idea development in speaking part 4. If you can master or at least learn some of these advanced phrases, they will definitely give you a head start in preparing for your speaking exam. And more importantly, they will also make your English sound much more natural. Now, if you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit that like button. Share it with your fellow language lovers and subscribe for more language tips. Keep practicing those advanced phrases and I'll catch you in the next enlightening lesson. Stay curious and stay learning.